Hello, 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 internet land. How's everybody doing this morning, this afternoon? This is a little bit of a comical start to this new series because my co-host, Nick Caldwell, I believe he might still be in bed sleeping. Haven't heard from him yet. I'm assuming he's going to show up any minute now. So in the meantime, let's I guess we'll chat with the chat window. How you guys doing? Do you guys all have a coffee in hand? What are you guys drinking this morning? Drop something in the chat window for me. Hillary says naughty Nick. I know, right? Oh, here he comes. Here he comes. There we go. Let me load him up here.
Sorry about that.
How you doing?
I had to make my coffee. I had to have it perfect.
You're out of bed.
I've been out of bed. I woke up early. Sorry, I had to make my coffee.
Good. What did you make for coffee?
I got caramel cheesecake. It's this like a keto version. Anyway.
And is that like
caramel cream cheesecake? And then I put whipped cream on there, and I drizzle caramel, sugar-free caramel.
You're fancier than me. That's way fancier than what I did.
Yeah. And I got some pink tea. What do you have?
I've got a Cuban dark roast.
All right.
The
like Cubans, a mocha pot.
Yeah, I use like a pour over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most people don't realize that Cuba has the absolute best coffee beans. They've got this like smoky flavor that's incredible. And somebody told me you can't even get the Cuban coffee beans in the States. I don't know if that's true or not. But.
Oh, like the cigars, they're actually from Panama. They're like not rich.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were such a connoisseur of coffee.
I am.
So did you start it like with an introduction?
I did no introduction. I just came on. I said, all right, it's just me because Nick Caldwell might still be in bed.
No, I definitely wasn't. I woke up early. I was trying to time out the coffee, and it still sagged. Like this thing, it was like up to here, and it was like drizzled all over. It was wonderful.
And then it melted, right?
Yeah, of course. Well, I drank it. So
yes. Somebody needs to invent a whipped cream that you can put on coffee that doesn't melt.
That it just stays at. It just stays at perfect height at all times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah, go ahead.
So how do we kick this off? Do we do an intro? And for those of you who are tuned in, this is completely off the cuff. We have no scripts, nothing planned. We're just completely winging it. So
yeah.
That's
the thing. Like if we do an introduction now, okay, there's 40 people here. Another time there's going to be 1,000 people. Do we do an introduction? We're right. 17 episodes in. Are we still doing introductions?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean,
well, you could say hello to everyone, I guess.
Most people here know who I am.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know Nick Caldwell, he's the genius behind Animated Abraham. When did you start your Animated Abraham YouTube channel? Like a couple years ago?
So that was 2019.
That long ago.
Do you know how that happened?
I don't think so.
So like, yeah, I was just meditating on the couch. And yeah, it came to me. It was like it was like this feeling of have to do this. It's same. This is the same feeling, but like it's like have to do this. And I think like 3 days later, I had my first episode up. Yeah, that was January 2019.
And you were the first person to ever animate Abraham.
Yeah.
And then like 6 months later, everybody started copying you.
It was about like 4 months later. And then now because I went online to get a clip the other day and they're all animated. I didn't realize. I just kind of would always just post my thing and that's it.
But now Abraham-Hicks is copy banning them, right?
I think
trying to,
because if you look, there's like nothing over 1 million views, and there were so many videos with over 1 million views. Like it's kind of sad. I don't understand that, but
I mean, I think
it's almost a recycle. Like I don't know if you remember, but like probably 2017, it was just flooded. Like anytime you would go to listen to a clip on YouTube, there would be ads every minute. They would put ads every minute. And that's actually how I first started. Like when I was at work, I wanted to listen to Abraham. So I started my own channel and just didn't have ads, or if I did, it was at the beginning.
Right, because yours was ad free at the beginning. I remember. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, you have ad. I mean, before a video plays, you play an ad, and then after, whatever, that's fine. But to interrupt it, I'm not interested in that.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
funny because my channel's not monetized, but now people are saying that ads are showing up during some of the meditation.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. YouTube's gonna put the ads. YouTube puts the ads regardless if you want them or not. And you don't even have to be monetized. Like if they decide your
But that wasn't
always
the case. That wasn't always the case because for years my meditations were fine. There were no ads during my meditations, and it's only in the last couple of years that people have started complaining that they get interrupted by an ad.
There's nothing worse, like especially if you're doing like some ASMR or like meditation, and then there's this loud ad. Yeah, I don't know how often they do it with Abraham-Hicks stuff though.
Probably all the same.
What, in the middle, just in the middle?
Yeah. They should have we should have a feature that we could pay as a channel owner, pay so that they don't show any ads on our streams.
Ooh, that's interesting, right? Yeah, I wonder how much revenue they bring in. How much does YouTube bring in? But yeah, I always found that weird that they can, like, even if you don't get the money for the ads, they're still gonna run ads.
I know.
Oh well. Yeah.
Cool.
Dude, it was like the first day of school last night. I couldn't sleep. I was so excited.
So what are we gonna chat about? So I mean, we've chatted about coffee already.
Yeah, right.
So we should probably talk about co-creation.
Yeah.
What do you guys want to hear us talk about? Drop it in the chat window.
Yeah. And I think that, like, I'm fascinated. Like, how many times have you been in the hot seat?
It's like 12 to 15. 12. I think it's like 12 or 13.
Wow. So yeah, like, and I know you've told me before, but like, have you have, what is it? Like when you're there, don't you drop into like some zone?
I remember my very first hot seat, which was at the Cancun land cruise.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are wondering, like, what is a land cruise? Once every year, one of the cruises was, and I think it was every second year, every third year, but they would run an event instead of on a cruise ship, it was at a resort. So the entire resort was booked out for Abraham-Hicks. And that was a lot of people, including my favorite event. They stopped doing them. A lot of different opinions as to why, or guesses as to why. My guess is that Esther was just bored because she doesn't mingle with the attendees. On the cruises, she can go to the different restaurants, and at port, she'll go shopping and stuff like that. But I think in a land cruise, I think she was probably bored at the resort. But my first hot seat was at the 2016 land cruise. And what I remembered from that hot seat is the energy while in the hot seat was so strong. It's like you could barely stay grounded and in your head, or even like barely hear the words she's saying. Like you hear enough, you consume enough to like be able to dialogue. But like once you're done, you get back to your chair. You don't remember any of it until you go back to the recording. And a lot of people have also had that experience. That was my experience. And then I would say the second and third hot seats after that, I was like a little bit more calibrated. So it was the same thing, just not as bad. And then after maybe like 3 hot seats, it's like having a normal conversation. So you kind of acclimatize to the vibration and her energy when you're up on stage.
Do you feel like it was more than nerves? Because to me, that seems like I'd be nervous and I would be in my own head. But
it's more than nerves. Like for me, I've done TED Talks. So I have no problem being on stage. Doesn't make me nervous. It's something energetic, I would say.
Yeah, like when she first, so I first went, I don't even remember what year. It was right before the pandemic. I've only been to one. I bought things for 2, but the second one got canceled. But it was like, she came out and it was like, I was like in tears. I've never felt so much emotion, and I don't know if it was because, like, financially I was tied to her. I mean, she's definitely helped me out in so many ways. But
Yeah.
it was, or maybe it's just the energy. It was so wild. It was so wild.
Yeah. And it would be interesting to spend time with Esther. Like, she's very private.
Yeah.
And, like, I run into her and I've gotten pictures with her and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I have no friends who, like, when we were in Amsterdam, somebody who was with our crew, he was in a flower shop and Esther walked in and he got to have a bit of a conversation with her in a flower shop. People who run into Esther, it's in the most unexpected ways. It's like at airport
Airports.
terminals
Yeah.
or like which I find fascinating. But she is very reserved and very private and doesn't dialogue um, with seminar attendees a whole lot at the seminars.
How old is she?
She's in her 70s, I'm pretty sure. I
Maybe
used to know
someone knows.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
if
feel like
anybody knows, drop it in the chat window.
I feel like 10 years ago she was in her 70s.
Yeah. She doesn't age much, but that's a vibrational thing, right? When you go on
Yeah.
cruises, when you go on the Ape cruises, you'll notice that most people look 5, 10 years younger than what they actually are.
Everyone in the whole space, like anyone that you meet that knows law of attraction, you're like, oh my gosh, like you just, it is exactly that. They're always younger. They're always beautiful. Everyone's beautiful.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it makes sense because, illness and disease and resistance is what resistance is hard on the body, right?
Yeah.
So of course, somebody who is living in alignment, who's relaxed, who's in the receptive mode, um, is obviously going to be in a healthier physical state of being.
JJ
So
said
J
she's 75. Yeah.
75, yeah.
So how many, like, well, how often do you listen to Abraham anymore? Not often.
I haven't listened to Abraham since recordings since pre-COVID. Um,
Yeah.
so the last two events I went to, we did the Amsterdam seminars in May, and we didn't go there for Abraham. I went there to visit my brother in
Mm.
Copenhagen. Abraham happened to be the following weekend, so we went to Amsterdam. We planned some events. We threw a big after party that Saturday night that was open. We had I think about 150 people show up to that, which was a blast.
Yeah, I saw those
So
pictures.
yeah, we went for like a big party. If anybody wants to see the videos, they're on my Facebook personal page. So we went to Amsterdam more to throw a party. We did go to the seminars. I did get in the hot seat. Prior to that, we did the last cruise in 2019 prior to COVID. When we got off the ship was when COVID had kind of hit,
Yeah,
and
I remember
we
that.
even struggled to get back to Canada. Um, so prior, other than those two events, I haven't listened to any Abraham-Hicks in a long time.
Yeah, like I recently listened. I'm working on some videos, and it's like I was listening to certain things, and it's like so good. I wish I didn't have anything attached to it. I wish it was just a hobby, you know? But
Yeah,
even like, okay, I'll separate for 1 minute and listen to this thing, and it's so good. It's so good. It's a
yeah,
wild thing, right? Because like for me, I've gotten copyright strikes from these people. It's
that
like,
you looked
wait,
into.
wait.
Yeah,
This last one was well, I had had a astrology reading in January, so like a year ago now. And then like I don't know any of that stuff, but it was fun.
yeah,
But anyway, he gave me like a breakdown of all these things. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's just typical.
yeah.
The thing to the date of this like major change was when they sent me as like that was when they sent me the last strike. It's like, oh,
And
how? I haven't heard from them for 2 years. I haven't heard from any of them for 2 years.
that was your animated Abraham channel, right? So
Yeah,
how many subscribers did you have?
that was 172,000.
Wow. All
Yeah.
just ripped out from under
Oh,
your
it's
feet.
gone. Yeah, it's gone. I've got my
Yeah.
videos. I've got my videos. But that's the thing too. I was like, I've been like late. So my son was born 3 years ago now, and it's I he kind of used up he sapped a little bit of energy, like my energy went to him.
Yeah.
And so I definitely wasn't doing anything with the channel. Like I wasn't growing it like I should have been. So it was all fine. But it is a wild thing too, because I would like it to be up there. It was, it meant something to me. And I think it meant something to people. People reached out but
Absolutely.
it all goes around, or it just keeps going. So that's the
Yeah,
thing.
and now it's,
Someone else is just animating. It's great. It's great.
and it's time to evolve into something new, right? Because
I'm
everything's
really excited
co-creation.
about that.
Everything's co-creation, right?
Yeah.
So if it wasn't serving in some way, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You'll like send me an email out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, perfect timing. Happens all the time. Anytime I've thought about you, it's usually within the day that you message me. It's even if it's been like 6 months.
Amazing.
That's wild. I don't know what you're tapped into, but you're pretty good.
You know what? For me, I think the most exciting or funnest part of all of this is just like life is so easy when you just let yourself follow impulses.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, "Oh, I got an impulse to do this. Feels right. I go do it." Right?
Right.
It's like last weekend we were or 2 weekends ago, maybe 3 now, we were at an Airbnb and it had a sauna.
Yeah.
And tried it out. It was a barrel sauna and I loved it. I was like 50% sold on it. And then we get home and then I start researching all of these crazy health benefits about saunas. And I'm like, snap. Okay. I went from 50% sold to like 99% sold. Then I started researching, what does a sauna cost? How do you put a sauna in? And it's like I'm just following impulse after impulse. Yesterday, a contractor came over, and next week we're going to start building a sauna in the backyard based on like finished specs. Like we're going all out. And it's like, if you asked me 3 weeks ago if I would ever build a
Right.
sauna, I'd be like, what are
Right.
you talking about? That's crazy, right? But it's like universe and source has this like, this roadmap planned out for us that we're completely unaware of. And when we like allow ourselves to just do what excites us, we go down that roadmap and surprises, you get surprised and delighted, as Abraham would say.
So will you hop in the sauna and then hop in the ocean and then so what it's supposed to be most beneficial for anti-inflammation, right? You're supposed to I don't know which one kicks it off, but you alternate, right? And then you between hot and cold, and then you end with cold and let your body just naturally come back
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. You could, I mean, here with the ocean, we've got like crabs and like rocks and like
Oh.
I I would probably put a cold plunge tub outside next to the sauna. Um,
I would
but
imagine even
first,
if you ran a cold shower by you, it's probably pretty cold.
oh yeah, it would be freezing cold.
Yeah, that's all you
Yeah,
need.
yeah,
Yeah, like here it got it during summertime. It like our the temperature of the water is like 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so it doesn't feel that cold. It's need that real chill. All right, so
yeah.
like let me ask you real quick. So with the flow, do you ever set goals or
I
plan
think
your day? Do you plan your
I
day?
think I think intentions is a better word,
Okay,
but it's not even intentions anymore. It's more like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if, or wouldn't it be fun if, or wouldn't it be cool? So it's like for me, I'm so ingrained into this notion of like organic unfolding, which is one of my favorite terms. It's just like, you know what? I let source take the steering wheel and I'm just along for the ride. And I'm just trusting that source is going to bring me to the most scenic views and the most delicious things to experience. And really from that vantage point, it's like, yeah, would it be fun and exciting to have a million people tune into Coffee and Co-Creation every week? Absolutely.
sure.
But if I show up and there's, right now there's 48 people, if I show up and 48 or 50 people show up every week, am I still just as satisfied and having just as much fun? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we would have been stoked if it was just the two of us. Originally, that's what it was going to be. It was you and I talking anyway. So
Yeah, I
we
think
got 48 extra people, plus it's on recording. Yeah, that's
yeah,
wonderful.
I mean, every time you and I would connect on Zoom just to have a chat, we
Yeah,
always have like
an
we're
hour
always
and a
like,
half
man,
conversation.
people would love to listen to some of this stuff. And so now we're doing it, and we'll do it as long as it feels fun and exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, to me, I feel like there's different headspaces for like motivation or discipline, right? Because if I'm like not feeling great, I do kind of need that discipline to get me started. I feel.
I
So
think
maybe you
I
haven't felt that for a long time.
That's a good point, because I was going to say discipline is unnecessary, but that's wrong, because where you want to apply discipline is in how you feel,
Right.
right? And I can feel source like, yeah, but choice points tapping on my back. So like,
Okay.
you want to be disciplined in where you put your focus. You want to be disciplined in what you're giving your attention to. You want to be disciplined in, what you're tuning into vibrationally. Not discipline in, I've got to make sure I do a 3-hour morning practice every morning
Right.
and stuff like that, right? So discipline, I would say vibrationally disciplined, not efforting discipline, because I think a lot of people, discipline turns into effort.
Yeah, and I think that so I don't know how familiar everyone is with your school of expansion, but so last week's call, Anik was talking about that, right? That body scan and it's so simple. And it's like, oh, it's been great. Like I've been practicing that because so I've got the watch. The watch tells me my heart rate, tells me all these things. I wish it could tell me what mood I'm in or what level of
Your heart
vibration
rate,
is.
but that's good, because if you're, if you're not exercising, right? If you're not in the middle of running 1,000 miles,
Right.
your physical body is the biggest indicator of where you're at emotionally.
Yeah.
So like, if you're sitting in your chair right now and you're nice and loose and limp and feeling wonderfully relaxed, then you're in a good place emotionally. But if you're sitting in your chair and you're all tight and tense and rigid, then I can almost guarantee you that either consciously or subconsciously, you're practicing, fear, stress, pressure, some form of resistance.
Right. But what about like just indulgence then? Like, because I definitely spent the last 3 years in indulgence. It's like I feel good sitting on the couch watching whatever until I don't that night,
But
you know?
I love that, because that brings me back to the question of like, am I truly honest with the way that I feel? And
Okay.
I mixed channeling last week in the School of Expansion, recordings in Teachable, by the way, for those of you who haven't watched it yet, get on it. Um, that was one of my favorite channelings by her ever. And
Yeah.
it wasn't because of any one of the specific hot seats. It's because I could clearly feel the difference between sitting with Abraham-Hicks and sitting with Anik channeling. And they both channel the exact same way. But the difference was that Abraham-Hicks was a flavor of upliftment, whereas Anik's channeling was very much a flavor of empowerment. And true expansion can only happen if you're honest with how you're truly feeling, and you allow yourself to tune into what's going on inside of you and processing what's going on inside of you.
I think she said something that's really stuck with me. It was like openness. Are you open? And so just like scanning, am I open? And a lot of times I wasn't. I was closed off. And
Yeah,
so it's like, okay, we'll just allow for openness and then see
totally.
what happens there. And yeah,
That
it's
that
really
was
cool.
probably the most important message in that whole channeling. And as a matter of fact, today's drop content for the School of Expansion is a meditation I created earlier this morning to help people find like a still point within themselves, and then to get a better sense of what they've truly got going on.
Yeah. I also liked how you started the thing with like kind of a framing, like maybe not a hypnosis, but like it was just like a calming of everything. That was cool. That
The
was really
meditation,
cool.
kickoff
Yeah, it was
meditation.
great.
Yeah, well, it's to get everybody grounded and centered, right? Most people are so caught up in their day to day with their jobs and traffic and kids and all of the stuff that they're living up here, and they're
Right.
not grounded in here where we're supposed to be.
Right. Exactly. All right. Want to take some questions?
Yeah, let's see if anybody in the chat window has anything they want to ask or chat about.
They've probably been talking this whole time, but I was paying attention to you. Should have moderated better.
Maybe we need to bring in a moderator to help.
I thought that's what I was going to do. Oops, I got caught up in the conversation.
Lynn says she loves the message of openness, simple act of softening. That's a word that she used in the channeling a lot last week, was softening. Soften up, soften your energy, soften your body, soften the way you feel.
So is that today? The next one's today?
No, so today's drop content, and then the next
Okay.
live calls next week. The
Mm.
mastery group has a live call today, but that's just for the mastery group students.
What's in the mastery group? People that are
Uh,
teachers?
no, it's more like of an intimate group. So it's like smaller group, more access to Nick and I. We have a Telegram group that we kind of chat in every day and post updates and reflections and stuff like that. It's just a little bit of a step up from the School of Expansion.
That's cool. It was really good. I mean, it was really impressive. Do you get
Yeah,
nervous at all at ever?
no.
Okay. It just becomes a conversation.
Yeah, I just, I'm so comfortable in just being me that it's like,
Right.
I'm just gonna go be me, and if people like it, great. Maybe they'll keep showing up. If they don't, well, they can go find somebody else that they
Right.
are more aligned with. It's all good. There's no right or wrong. As Bashar says, all truths are true. I think our only job is to be ourselves to the fullest, and that's what allows us to live our path and our unfolding to the fullest as well.
Do you listen to other teachers at all?
I haven't read a book. I haven't listened. I don't consume anymore. It's
Okay.
almost like
You have a direct path almost.
well, yeah. So anytime I want to talk to Source, Nick and I sit down in the living room, and I can have a conversation with Source pretty much any day of the week, which is pretty incredible, because I remember setting the intent. I remember at one point being like, wow, I wish I didn't have to get on a cruise and go see Abraham-Hicks to have a conversation with Source. And I don't remember how long ago that was, but I remember setting that intent. And now Anik channels in the exact same way Esther does. And the way they explained it is they said that Anik has always been very vibrationally sensitive and very good at attuning to vibration. So what they said is she sat in the Abraham-Hicks um, audience enough times where she learned to calibrate in the same way Esther does. And Anik told me she even remembered once hearing the words that Esther was about to say a split second before Esther was saying them. So it's like
That's
she
cool.
connected to the exact same stream. So because Anik learned to do that, now she can channel in the same way here in our living room.
Do you ever like if you two have an argument, it's like basically do you have to just concede immediately because she's got infinite intelligence coming to her?
We
Or
don't
not argument,
but even then we don't even like, we're always so on the same page with everything that everything just kind of flows.
okay.
It's like
Okay, cool.
I think. And Nick, if you oppose that thought, if you're here, drop something in the chat window. Okay, so I'm seeing some bigger comments coming in through the stream.
Yeah, Blake had a comment.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and read it?
Yeah. How do I show it? Oh, look at that. Is it possible to feel at different levels? Okay. For example, I feel nervous or afraid on the surface, but I feel connected to my purpose beneath the surface. Okay.
Yeah, so I would say what comes to mind here is something that Bashar said once, which really stuck with me, which was that there's no difference between the energy of excitement and the energy of anxiousness. The only difference when that stream comes in is that we filter it in different ways.
Okay.
So I
yeah.
think that sometimes we feel nervous or fear on the surface, and we're interpreting it as anxiety, but in reality it's excitement. Now, I'm not saying that's always the case. And I think nervousness isn't a bad thing. I think nervousness is a sign that you're stepping into something that is new to you and obviously would lead to breakthroughs.
What about fear? What if he's in a state of fear and it, like for me, sometimes it feels like I'm just consumed by it. Like almost to where I can't even think about moving on to the next.
Yeah. So if I found myself in that state of being, the first thing I would do is ground and get out of my head. Because when you're up in your mind up here, you can't process that stuff properly. So first step is grounding, getting into your body, and then exploring the fear. So whatever that thing is, that feels unsafe because, or what must I believe is true to feel unsafe, or asking the right probing questions to kind of identify what story you're telling in your mind that's triggering you into that fear state.
Do you literally ground? Do you go outside and ground to the sand, or do you have like a grounding mat, or it's just like a
I
metaphorical ground
I
yourself?
have a grounding mat. I think I lent it to one of my kids or something because usually it's in my office and it's not here right now. But for me, what I like to do for grounding is physical activities.
Okay.
My favorite thing is disc golf. There's nothing that makes me feel better than getting out in the woods for a couple of hours, walking in nature, throwing discs. There's something about that specific activity for me that helps me disconnect from everything, centers me, and when I get back home, um, I just feel like I'm in a really good state of being.
Do you have like a quicker method? Do you like say you're in an elevator and you need to ground real quick, you just focus your breath, or
Yeah, you would if I had to if I had to ground now, I would just breathe and try to shift my consciousness down into my solar plexus, down into my heart.
and then do you set intention for, okay, I don't want to be at this anxious level. I want to be at this level.
No, I just do it.
Okay.
And the other thing too is like really feeling your feet on the ground.
Okay. That's interesting. Like really feeling that grounding. Gotcha.
Yeah, or like one of my clients was a professional touring disc golfer. And he said that whenever he would throw a bad shot, he would then get all in his head about it and he'd have a hard time centering again and refocusing for his next throw. And what I did is I said, take a bottle of essential oils, put a
Mm.
bunch of essential oil on your wrist or somewhere where you have access to it, so that when you find yourself in that headspace, just take a big sniff. And I said, if you don't have access to it, grab a chunk of grass from the ground. You know how grass smells, take a big whiff, and that smell almost shocks you back into your body.
Oh, that's really good. That's great. Okay. How about
Yeah.
Nana? Any good suggestions to get rid of dissolve something in your stomach? You don't know what it is, but health question.
Yeah, disclaimer, I'm not a medical doctor. I don't provide medical advice, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So my experience with stomach issues, especially IBS, is what I call walking on eggshell syndrome. So a lot of clients that I worked with who were suffering from IBS and digestive issues was that they had experienced traumas in the past, or they were living with somebody, or they had some kind of circumstance where they were always kind of in that state of fight or flight and walking on eggshells, almost as if it would create tension in the digestive system. And then working through the root causes and the emotions of those things um, significantly shifted their IBS to the point where for some people it was completely gone. So when it comes to stomach issues, I typically share that. But again, everything, my belief is that our cells in our body contain infinite intelligence, that our body knows how to heal itself. And when the body is not healing itself, it's because there's some form of disconnect and there's something that our body is trying to communicate to us. Um, Oftentimes, again, it's about grounding, getting in your body, and then sensing and feeling what's going on in that part of our body emotionally, um, that needs to be processed.
So, too, can you get, I mean, you could get outside help for all that too. Like if I'm inspired to go look at that's, but
Oh,
also why can't they both, right? You do both, or you're
say, say,
you're listening to yourself and also getting some outside expertise, right? To
yeah,
me,
you broke
I don't know. Oh, sorry.
you. If the video broke up there, can you say that again?
Sorry, yeah. So, okay, so I was lifting massive amount of weight yesterday because jacked, just jacked. No, no, but in my knee, and I started to feel a little pain, and so it stopped the rep. And obviously, I'm weak in my knees. Like that was my indicator, right? I listened to my body, And so now last night I went and learned watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and now I'm going to walk backwards for 10 minutes today. Like there's certain little structural things that
Oh,
can actually
totally.
build that too. I mean, you could do both things.
Totally. And you know, everybody here probably already knows that different physical elements in different parts of the body equate to different emotional and vibrational states. So I've helped people who had chronic migraines
Mm,
overcome their chronic migraines by realizing that the pressure that they're feeling physically is the byproduct of the pressure that they're putting on themselves,
yeah.
right? Or the pressure they're feeling on in life in some way. Um, in my experience, breast cancer relates to lack of nurturing, right?
Oh,
Lower back issues relate to feeling powerless, stuck, victim. So again, you know, and there's books that map all of this stuff. My favorite one is Metaphysical Anatomy by Rose. That's the one that I suggested all my practitioners use. Typically within the first paragraph, 80-90% of the time it was spot on.
yeah. It really is too. So I think that, yeah, I mean, you can focus there and also, I don't know, physically like to me, I felt like, yes, vibrationally, if I change my thoughts, change my vibration, it definitely gets me there, and also puts me in a place of openness and willing to learn more. And I don't know, I just always felt that like I'm I'm big into changing my body as well as my mind.
Totally, totally. And I really do feel like a lot of physical dis-ease wouldn't be present if we were all living more grounded. On the School of Expansion call last week, I mentioned a Bashar quote that I read recently. Let me see if I've got it saved on my phone. Let me see if I can pull it up. I just got to figure out which folder it's in. Let's see. Downloads. No. But it basically said something along the lines of um, if we were all breathing properly. Oh, here it is. So this is a Bashar quote. One of the strongest ways to center yourself and release disease is by learning how to breathe, which almost none of you know how to do as automatic as it is. Learn how to breathe from your center. That will go a long way towards eliminating disease in your body of any kind. So it's really interesting. And since reading that quote, I've been reflecting on the process of expansion, how we all have our seven bodies, right? Physical, mental, emotional,
Mhm.
energetic. We've got our seven bodies. And for me, Source says that it's my physical body that is now lacking behind my mental, emotional, and all the other ones. And that's the one that needs the most amount of work. And I've been reflecting on, okay, so, you know, if all of my bodies are raising in vibration and my physical body is the one that's lagging, how is it that as we continue to expand or ascend or whatever you want to call it, that we support our physical body in that process? And I'm really curious about, you know, if the old 3D way of breathing is rapid breathing through our
Mhm.
mouth, and what is the better way of breathing? Is it belly breathing? Is it more consciously being present in our body? So lately I've been on a bit of a journey of reflecting on um, what is it that my body needs. I asked in a channeling this week with Anik, food, you know, what food should we be eating? And their answer was the foods that are closest to nature,
Oh, okay.
which makes
So,
sense.
I mean, so you're like now vegetarian, or how do you feel about that? What does that mean
Well,
to
I
you?
think I think I think animals are still close to nature too.
They very much are.
Yeah. So I like the Mediterranean diet. I know that meat wise,
Mm.
fish and chicken are probably my best sources of protein.
Yeah.
I know that my body reacts poorly to dairy, to caffeine, which I'm only making this a one time a week kind of thing with you guys. Um, so it's definitely interesting to just be more consciously aware of how your physical body responds to the foods you eat. And that's something that I've learned from Anik. Anik, she did a degree in at the School of Natural Nutrition, and Anik is very consciously aware of both what she puts in her body, but also how her body responds to it. And it's helped me learn to become more conscious of, you know, what I'm using from my physical fuel.
Yeah. So for me, it's like just cutting out. I cut out sugar long time ago, 7 years ago, I think now, and that's been it. I mean, that's been it. It's now all fake sugar, which is probably equally giving me bad things, but okay. I feel different. I feel different.
I remember different. I would, you know what? I'm going to set my intent to do the same thing. I cut out sugar 4 or 5 years ago, and it probably lasted 2 or 3 months. But I noticed that my brain felt so much more clear.
Yeah.
I had so much more energy. Yeah, I need to put some thought into that.
Yeah. So for me, it was always like, that. Yeah. And you can take all that. Yeah, there you go. She had a follow-up too. Did you see that?
Oh, I missed it.
Here's this. She can relate to the walking on eggshell situation. Core feeling is frustration. Okay.
Yeah. So
how would you deal with that?
I would work on transmuting the frustration. So exploring the frustration. I feel this way because typically anger and frustration is around perceptions that something is not fair, something is wrong, and that's what you want to explore.
Do you notice that a lot of times with people is that their core level or what they're describing as their baseline is actually like a negative thing like that?
Yeah, oftentimes. I mean, it's, everybody's different.
I suppose.
Most people carrying feelings of unworthiness, not good enoughness, powerlessness, those are kind of the more dominant ones that people seem to be carrying.
Another Nicole. Felt into my frustration, there's a sadness or anxiousness underneath. So again, it's a very similar.
And that's why the belief tree process is called the belief tree process, because it's literally going through roots, a tree structure of beliefs, getting down to the core of what's really in place. And oftentimes once you get to the bottom of that stack of emotions and you release what's at the root, everything above it seems to kind of unravel and go away.
I don't know this belief tree process. Tell me.
So
Nope.
So the main tool I used for a long time was EFT. You're familiar with EFT,
right.
the tapping. And what I realized while doing the tapping was that it wasn't so much of the tapping part, but it was the probing statements I would use, the questions I would ask, the reframes as I was doing the tapping. The tapping, what's good about the actual physical tapping is it helps somebody get out of their head and into their body more.
Right.
So now what I'll do is I'll do belief tree work with somebody, which is about working through layers of emotions. And if somebody has a hard time allowing the next layer to come up or surface, or I find they're in their head a lot, then I'll get them to tap while we're doing the belief tree process.
And then so you're finding the root of the problem, essentially, right?
So one example I'll give is around depression. So somebody with depression, they'll be sitting in sadness, and no matter how hard they try, it's very hard for them to get rid of the sadness. And behind that front conscious layer of sadness, there might be unworthiness, not good enough, and then maybe under that is anger towards the person who maybe victimized them as a child. And they're not consciously aware that that's there, but as long as that anger is there, you can't release the sadness. So it's about going down through those layers, releasing the anger. And once you release those underlying emotions, then what's up at the surface is more transmutable.
Do you notice that when you do that, it kind of all dissolves, or?
Oh yeah, totally.
Really?
I mean, everybody's different. So if you have not good enough at the surface, then you might have 3 branches under that. One might be, I'm not good enough because dad said so. One might be, I'm not good enough because I'm not a heart surgeon like my brother. And another one might be, I'm not good enough because I don't drive a Ferrari. Okay. Right? And for some people, those all 3 might be rooted in one thing, where when you clear that one thing, all 3 of those and the surface one go away. For some people, sometimes you have to clear all 3. So it's, everybody's different, and you don't really know what's going to come up as you work through it. And that's why when I do, or used to do, one-on-one work with people, it was a 3-month process, because you'd have to come in week after week and say, okay, what's coming up next? What's coming up next? And eventually you get to a point where most of it is all cleared out.
Right. End of session.
Yeah. for now.
There's so much. Tiramisu have sugar.
Depends on the tiramisu. Thanks, Dave.
Ooh, intermittent fasting. Do you do that?
Yeah, I've heard mixed things about intermittent fasting. Nick did it. I don't know if she still does.
Mm.
I struggled with it. I would get headaches when I would intermittent fast. Now that might be because of a sugar thing. I've got fructose intolerance.
Mm.
I had a friend of mine is a naturopath, and we did an epigenetics test where they like scan your DNA and identify, I don't know how to describe it, but basically like irregularities in your DNA or things in your DNA that are off. And one of them was my DNA shows that I have a fructose intolerance, which is interesting. And I think that there's something with intermittent fasting and sugar that was kind of making it hard for me to do. I have to eat as soon as I get up in the morning.
Oh, really? Otherwise you have a headache?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, for me it was, so I think like the very first week of keto I had a headache because it was sugar all the time for me.
Yeah.
But then your body processes out, and it's like you said with the energy level, it's like I always related it to, like, there's a time when it's about time to get off work and somehow I feel like revitalized. It's like 5 o'clock, even though I'm tired from the day, it's like there's an excitement there. I felt
And
that the whole day.
so when you say you cut out sugar, like, do you eat bread?
No.
Okay, because bread, wheat turns into sugar in the body, so that's why I was wondering. So like
No carbs.
no maple syrup.
No. Well, they have all the sugar-free stuff for all that. But yeah, I live in the Midwest. We've got cows. So I just reclaim it and I have steak, right?
Right.
It's not even a diet. It's steak and butter and heavy
Yeah.
cream, and like I have a Ninja Creamy, so I make ice cream, and it's just,
Yeah,
I have
I
to
would say
reframe it.
I think for me the challenge in going no sugar isn't avoiding like sugar per se, but it's so many foods turn into sugar in the body, like bread. So if you're doing no sugar, you have to do gluten free.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've been no bread for a long time. You do miss the bread.
Oh,
And then you get
absolutely.
over it. Pasta. I used to like pasta a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. What do we got?
Are you going through the chat window?
Yeah, there's so much. My dead air. Toxin can cause headaches. Everybody's different.
Freeze your bread, then toast it, and it lowers the glycemic index. Actually, that's what I already do. So awesome.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
This person's saying juicing celery.
Yeah, I'm not sure about. I can drink a little bit of celery. The first time I drank celery juice, and it gave me a giant cup of celery juice, and I chugged it. And I regretted it because of how I felt afterwards. I'm not going to go into the details about that. For people who
Ugh.
juice celery, they probably know. But yeah, I do love fresh juicing, though. We fresh juice quite a bit.
Yeah, let's go to Anik. Reframe the idea of grounding to be supported by life, the earth. When you tap into infinite love, you immediately get back into your being.
Totally. Yeah, it's
wonderful.
grounding is like opening up energetic channels.
So, do you set daily intentions or constantly intentioning?
No, because my daily intention is always the same, which is have an awesome day.
Yeah. See, to me, I kind of drift when I don't have a little focus. I kind of just drift, and so I don't know. Maybe you can't relate at all, because maybe the drifting is a good thing. But like I said, if I don't stay focused,
So what comes to mind is that, like, for me, the last year and a half. Source has really been pushing me to like slow down.
Oh.
And even like literally like half an hour before our call, Nick said, Nick, go lay on the couch. I'm going to give you like 5 minutes of Reiki to ground you.
Ooh, that's cool.
And what came through, so in disc golf, in my drive, I've been dragging my foot to the point where my left foot in the front left corner has like a giant hole in it. And yesterday when I went out to play, I was like, okay, I'm gonna not drag my foot. So when I would throw, I was intentionally picking that foot up, and I was getting an extra like 50 feet of distance. So as she was giving me this Reiki just before the call, she said, Nick, and Source comes to her often while she's doing Reiki and stuff. They said, Nick, whenever you disconnect, so I had a one-on-one call with somebody before this, and they wanted me to go and get this Reiki and disconnect and reground and recenter. And they said, Nick, we know you don't like to slow down, and that feels like slowing down to me. But they said, when you slow down, it's like you pick your foot up and you stop dragging it on the T-pad.
Right.
So what, as 5D humans, we need to learn to accept is that the 3D way is like go, 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 rush, 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 do, more. That's how we're programmed. And that's kind of like the 3D paradigm of existence and the old paradigm. And what we need to learn to do and start doing more is slow the fuck down. And it's taking breaks between the doing that and grounding that will allow us to recharge and move quicker and allow things to happen faster. And I think you get full credit for what I'm sharing right now, because obviously this came in to me through you like half an hour ago. So when you say, what was it you said a minute ago about you get restless? What did you say?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you talking to her.
Okay.
Yeah. I drift. It's mostly drifting is my day.
Okay. Yeah.
There's no pressure. So I drift.
And drifting is awesome as long as you're feeling good. But what you need to watch out for is in your drifting, if you're starting to feel like restless,
right?
And this is something I'm still learning to master too, because this happens to me. If you start to feel restless, then it's like acknowledging, okay, there's discomfort, and instead of trying to jump to an activity to bypass or circumvent the restlessness, it's about grounding and feeling into yourself to like feel out what needs to be processed there. And it's about understanding that, as I was saying, 3D was old paradigm was go go go, push push push, don't stop. Now it's about understanding that it's seasons, as Inix channeling say, it's ebbs and flows, where in your day it's a mixture of moments of doing things, but also a mixture of moments of recharging. And those moments of recharging are periods spent with your ass on the couch, just relaxing, grounding, getting in nature, those types of things.
Yeah, I think that I need to reprogram myself to start like, okay, it's 8 o'clock at night and I've got all this inspiration. I don't typically like, I kind of reduce that. I say, oh yeah, well, tomorrow when it's work time, then you'll do that. I need to just get in the habit of getting after it then.
But it's also like honoring the ebbs and the flows when the ebbs happen and when the flows happen, right? So for me, it's like I wake up in the morning, and if I've got scheduled calls or things like this, like I know I'm going to show up at the computer at call time. But at the same time, it's like tomorrow I've got the whole day open.
Right.
I know I want to play disc golf tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to do that at noon or at 9 a.m. I don't know if I'm going to drive to the course an hour and a half away that I want to go practice because I've got a tournament there on the weekend, or just down the course down the street. Like, I don't know until I'm in that moment. And it's in that moment, in the present, in the now, where our power is, that I tune into the impulse of where to go and what to do.
It's like a vacation every day, right? For you? I mean, similar to that? It's open, right? It's
yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean,
is there pressure? You don't like that. Okay.
I don't know if vacation is the right word, but it's like I'm free to flow in whatever way feels best to me.
What about priorities? Did it ever on your mind, or you just throw them into your calendar and let that be?
Let source sort it out.
Okay.
If it's a priority,
Yeah.
source is going to make it relevant to me now.
Okay. Oh, that's so fascinating. That's really good.
And but when you understand that, reality becomes so easy and so simple. There's nothing I need to do, solve, fix, figure out. I just need to be present. And whatever needs my attention, source is going to make sure it has my attention.
Right. Yeah. It's a training, though. I think that
Oh yeah, absolutely.
because you do
Because
like even that, I want to have resistance against it. I'm like, yeah, but
you have to be grounded and present.
right.
Because if you're not grounded and present, then you're not receiving the guidance from source.
Right. So do you hear
Right?
how do you receive, like you said, you felt a tap on your shoulder. How do you is it a feeling, or do you hear a voice, or I'm
No,
fascinated always by that.
I'm not clairaudient. I'm
Okay.
more like it's like a claircognizance, I think it's called, where it's just a knowingness.
Okay.
And it's like I can
Right.
feel force with me like all the time. But it's a lot of people they're like, oh, I want to channel or oh, I want to be able to hear source and stuff like that. But like I think for most people, it's like me, it's just a knowingness. Like it's like this connection where it's just a pure stream of awareness.
Yeah, I was talking to my wife about that. And to me, I have like there was a knowingness when it was time to make animated Abraham. There was a knowingness. There was with this, there was a knowingness like this is feels right. This is
Yeah, ex-
there was only
exactly.
excitement to it.
And for me, it's like that knowingness is there 80% and 90% of the time on all things, right? And when that knowingness isn't there, usually it's because there's strong attachment or
Okay.
resistance or fear or something involved. And it usually involves like, something around my kids or something that's,
Sure.
a little bit more on the serious side of things.
Well, so with that though, I mean, you can't just like abandon. You can't say, "Well, forget them then," or maybe you
No,
do.
no,
I don't know,
you
but
do the best that you
there's
can.
skills to be learned. Like to me,
Always.
like yeah. So this feels different than like I'm making videos where I'm basically the idea of my new channel is to live law of attraction, right? It's to the word of Abraham or people like you or a Nick or any of them, right? And to experience that in my way. I'm making film. I'm making pretty shots. I want to make pretty shots. But when it comes down to talking to the camera, I get really like with this, it's not nervous at all. But like with that, there's something there. And so it's like I want it. I want this thing, but there feels like a block or a lack of skill. I don't even know how to describe it.
I said, no, but it's just a perceived lack of skill,
Okay, right.
right?
Okay.
So if I said just do it, then why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. Yeah. So then the effort, not effort, but it becomes a thing where, okay, I got to film this thing today. And maybe I resist it a little bit even. So
Right.
in that case, maybe it's your grounding technique and just getting,
Yeah, or it's about saying, okay, well, there's two streams of awareness coming in. One stream of awareness is saying, "Ooh, this is scary. Ooh, it might suck, or ooh, it might not look good." But there's also a stream of excitement that's there that says, "Ooh, how fun would this be to try and see what happens?"
right.
Right? And so, do you consciously recognize that both of those streams are there?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so then it comes down to choice point, which is which of those streams are you going to choose to tune into? And if you
Right.
can maintain the connection to the stream of excitement, then you just follow the excitement and whatever happens, happens.
Do you
Right?
think
That goes
everything
back.
else is kind of nonsense anyway? Like if I set an imaginary deadline for myself, like I force a endpoint because like I do respond well to deadlines. Is it a thing where it's like,
Do you
yeah,
think
but then
source
you're not creating a right thing, right?
do you think
Source.
source sets the deadlines?
I don't know. See, that's the thing. Where did
Yeah,
that thought
no,
come
because
from?
it can't because time doesn't exist.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. It's an interesting thing because it's like I do react under those situations. And then also when it does flow, that's the best, of course.
Yeah, it's all about flow. As long as you're happy and satisfied and indulging and loving reality, who cares how it unfolds,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So it's like, the pro disc golfer that I work with, it's like I told him your goal isn't to shoot the best that you can.
Right.
Your goal isn't to fly around the trees as with as much ease as possible. Your goal is how deeply and consistently can I play golf in that state of flow?
Right. And did
And
it
because I know if he gets there,
right.
then he's gonna win.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, in some way, he's winning already just by feeling that, right? It doesn't even matter. Then it just reframes the whole situation then.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
yeah, I think people are really enjoying it because there's no more questions. I think they're listening to us instead of asking. But so if anyone has any more, I'd love to ask more. I mean, it's already over an hour. That flew by.
We never even set our intent for how long we were gonna go for.
I kind of imagined an hour, but that really like flew by. So I'd
Okay,
see if anyone has anything.
let's go for another 15 minutes. Let's see if
All right,
anybody
that's
else has
cool.
anything. Let's see if anybody else has anything they want to ask or share or want us to talk about.
Look at they're loving this. Thanks, Meredith.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's such a selfish thing on my part. It's just fun I gotta ask you a bunch of questions for an hour. That's great.
Yeah, and it's always fun to hang out, in this type of environment with fellow expansion seeking co-creators.
Do you notice that when you have that collective, like, does the vibration get stronger or the message gets louder, or how does that work for you?
For me, it's consistently the same whether I'm on
Okay.
calls or not. But when you're in a group with lots of people, obviously it becomes easier to tap into what's going on collectively around you.
Okay. There's a lot of good questions now. Any thoughts on how I can be in the flow and be in less efforting around my sister who had a stroke yesterday? Sorry to hear that.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's terrible, right?
Because
Okay.
it's that balance of, you know, how much can I help or how much do I help without starting to compromise myself?
So what would you do in that situation?
I would say the first step would be find my alignment
Okay.
because it's from my place of alignment that I'm most of service. So if I knew that I had to go over to my sister's place at 8 a.m., then I would get up an extra half an hour early and spend that half an hour doing what it takes for me to find my alignment and then kind of following the flow from there.
Well, and sometimes it could be finding the right person that's right for the sister, right? I mean,
But that's also that would be part of the organic unfolding.
right. Right. Not to like put the pressure on to yourself. And yeah. How does time not exist relate to the working world? How about that?
Yeah. So this is where we put on like the very spiritual hat and we go down deeper down the rabbit hole. So from a physical reality, spiritual vantage point, everything is happening all at once. Everything is happening here and now.
Okay.
Right.
Right. There's nothing but.
So, right. So, as humans experiencing the physical, we're jumping billions of timelines per second, as Bishar or whoever talks about. So, it's about understanding that in this reality I'm sitting in, the deadline might be Friday. And the reality next to me, the deadline might be Saturday. It's tricky to perceive a reality outside of time
Right.
because we are so as 3D beings, as our physical human selves, we are locked into time,
Right.
right? But we can always manifest a reality where time is different.
Yeah.
And like You know those moments where you're having so much fun?
It's exactly what I was just gonna ask.
That,
Everyone's experienced that loss of time.
it's like, "Oh my
Oh
god,
my
it's already
gosh,
been
it's
2
been 5
hours. It
hours. Exactly.
felt like
Or
5 minutes."
Vice
Yeah.
versa.
Well, those are examples of manipulating time, and the reason it
Right.
does that is because you're having so much fun in your moment. You're so present in your now moment that time literally stops.
Yeah. Do you find yourself, like, desiring to recreate that? I think it's such a magical moment that there's just a natural I wanna recreate those moments. I wanna be in that flow state.
Honestly, I feel like I experience those moments every day
Okay.
because
How long do you think it took you to do that?
I never train myself to
Okay.
do it, but it's like, when I'm playing disc golf,
Right.
it takes about 2 hours to do a round of disc golf with a friend. To me, it feels like that happened in a split second.
Yeah.
And I use disc golf as an example because when I play disc golf, I'm very present. You have to be very present in your throw and in what you're doing and in your aiming and in finding the discs and walking in nature. It's a very present now moment activity. And every time I play disc golf, it feels like it went by in a flash. I
Right.
mean, look at this. Does it really feel like we've been chatting
No.
for over an
No,
hour?
not at all. Not at
Right?
all. Yeah. Look at all these chat is blowing up.
And I would even say that when you're really living connected and in alignment to a point where you're allowing problems to solve themselves, then deadlines and timelines do become irrelevant. Because if that deadline really needs to be met
Yeah.
and you're living in that organic unfolding in an aligned way, then the solutions to meeting that deadline have to show up.
Right. Yeah, the to the point where you're saying, like, there's nothing to be done other than being in that moment, like, fully present.
Yep.
I mean, it's something that takes practice, for me at least. I don't know, maybe it doesn't, but to you know, all the time to stay in that moment, that's my desire, and sometimes it just doesn't work that way. You get sideswiped a little bit.
You can't get there by trying
That's
to
true.
be
Right,
present.
right.
Trying to be present in the now is probably the hardest way to be present in the now,
Yeah,
right? The way you learn to be present in the now is by enjoying your now.
right. As
It's
I'm
like the
trying
quote,
yeah.
the words that are dropping into my mind are like, "Let the now be so delicious that it distracts you from everything else."
Right, and then it's always the best. It's always the best, like 100%. That's that's the wildest thing about it. That letting
Yeah.
go, and then you're in it. I don't know. It's
I mean
wonderful.
I mean, if source is infinitely intelligent
Right.
and unconditionally loving, then of course whatever experience it's co-creating for you has to be the best thing for you to be experiencing from a spiritual vantage point.
Right. Yeah, it's I don't know, it's almost heady. It's like such a big thing that's so easy and oh, it's just so powerful, right? Maybe the simplest things are the most powerful.
That's part of the reason I stopped consuming knowledge and reading books and listening to Abraham is because it's all intellectual stuff. But
Right.
as humans, we're too intellectual. We're trying to figure too much out with our minds. Like when we just allow ourselves to be present and connected, we're receiving everything that we need.
Right. Do you avoid the news entirely? Do you like what kind of out external stuff
Uh,
do you get in?
avoid is a strong
Okay.
word.
Okay.
But today it was quite smoky here. So I went on the
Mm.
news website to see if there was any reports of forest fires or stuff like that. Um, but I don't check news channels every morning or I don't, I see what flies through my Facebook feed, but that's about it.
Yeah, I not forced, but let's see what how many days I'm on. But I had to make myself not consume news. I was so addicted. 83 days. 83 days without the news and how different I feel because of that. Like you don't even think it at the time because it's so engaging, even if it's not
Yeah, well,
fun.
we had,
It's so
you know,
engaging.
a couple of weeks ago, we had that hurricane come through. What was it?
Right. I don't know.
Hurricane Lee. So last year we had Hurricane Fiona that hit us, and it was by far
Yeah.
the worst storm we ever had. We had waves crashing up against the deck and almost up against the house. And since then, everybody here's been on edge about hurricanes, obviously. And now when Lee came through last week, the whole week leading up to Lee, the news was all over it and talking about it all the time and spaghetti models and all this stuff. And it came through and it like didn't even shake the house. And we have storms here that don't make the news that shake the house and bow the windows all the time.
Yeah.
So the question is did we get lucky, or is just the media and the news blowing it all out of proportion because it was such a big thing last year?
Yeah. 100% is what they did. 100%.
Yeah.
Are you
But
seeing any
then
more
but then now
questions? Sorry.
but then it's putting everybody on edge for no reason. So yeah, I believe news is unhealthy? Absolutely. There can be good positive news,
Sure.
but you need to know where to tune into that stuff.
Well, it's so fascinating for me, having intentionally put it away, to see what trickles through, and it's always it's interesting things that get to you. But yeah, it took a while. That was actually harder than anything I've ever dropped. I stopped drinking. That was how long ago? I stopped drinking 133 days ago. That
I
was
love that
easy. That was
I
easy.
love that. We need to see this Nick Caldwell stats book. It sounds like you got this list of statistics and things that you keep track
That's
of.
all I'm interested in. Yeah, I've got
That's awesome.
my daily routines. Must track everything. My
That's
watch. I
awesome.
must track everything. Yeah. Any more questions? That's great.
Awesome. Super
Hour
fun.
15. Yeah.
So how do we close this out? We need to
Well,
remind people next week we're doing an hour or a day earlier, right? Next week you want to do Tuesday?
yeah, I'm going to Vegas on Wednesday, so
So
yeah.
you're gonna go party. You're gonna go party in Vegas
Yeah, I'm
and
gonna go on the strip. It's so
and
funny because it's such a different thing than I'm ever used to. Like I said, I've been going since I was 8 years old because I have family there. And this is just it's a wedding, so but yeah. No, I don't gamble. I don't like to lose money like that. I don't party.
like me.
I'm
I
married,
play
3
poker. I
kids.
love playing poker,
Oh,
but
do you?
oh yeah, I was contemplating going pro at one point for poker. I was winning a
Oh,
lot of
there
big
you go.
tournaments. Yeah,
Whoa,
but
I didn't
then
know
but
that.
then yeah, but the thing about poker is there's always going to be big swings, and
Sure.
like to what it would have done to my adrenals and stuff, it didn't feel fun. Um, so I didn't want to go play in that arena, so I went down a different path.
How long ago was that?
Oh god, that would have been at least 15, maybe close to 20 years ago.
I was trying to think the other day, like, how long it's been since I've known you. I can't tell if it's been a decade because so
I'd say
I never knew Abraham before I met you. You were the one that introduced me to Abraham-Hicks. Before that, I only knew, like, Bob Proctor and that type of law of attraction where it was,
yeah,
like, financially driven.
I'd say 5 or 10 years ago.
It might have been 10. Yeah. A decade.
Crazy.
It is
We
wild.
need we need to connect in person, like on an Abraham-Hicks cruise or some kind of an event. You know what? I've been looking at planning our next meetup. We'll call it School of Expansion event or collective event, maybe like in the Dominican or Jamaica or
Mm.
somewhere in the Caribbean. So if we do organize something, you guys would all want Nick Caldwell to show up, right? And his wife. Drop a hell yes in the chat window. You guys want to come
Oh,
hang
look,
out with us?
Nick squared. Nick 2. That's me. Thanks, Dave.
Awesome. So yeah, so
Right
we'll
on.
see everybody next week on Tuesday, same
Tuesday.
time, same place.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. That was great.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Bye,
Thanks for
everybody.
everyone to join. See ya.
Take you later.